Hello, 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 my friends. Hey, listen, I know you just looked at some property, whether it's a primary residence you're looking at, a summer home, or an investment property, and maybe you're feeling the need to submit an offer. Okay, I'd like to go over some things that you should consider when submitting the offer. Now, when you're looking at purchasing a property and you say, well, should I submit an offer, Tracy, on this property or not? My question to you is, if you found this property, is it a 10? Now, that's a trick question because there are no 10s. I really feel like if you looked at a property and it's between an 8 and a 10, because there are no perfect properties, then you definitely should consider putting an offer in on this property. And when I speak about offer, I want to go over exactly what I mean when I say submitting an offer. Submitting an offer is you deciding that you want to submit to the seller an amount and some terms that you're comfortable with purchasing the property. Now, the document that we use to submit the offer, it actually is probably going to be the same as the contract. The difference between the two is once we're submitting it, it's considered an offer. If the seller accepts that offer, in writing, by the way, we don't submit verbal offers, in writing. If the seller accepts the terms and the price and signs it, and we fully ratify and we fully sign the offer, then it becomes a contract. So you'll hear me a few times say offer or contract. And again, difference is if it's an offer, it's not accepted yet. Contract, the seller has accepted it. So if you're interested in putting an offer in, I typically will send you out a form. I need to get some information, some basic information, whether you're purchasing it in your personal name or an LLC. I do need to have some information. If you're purchasing it cash, we're going to need to have proof of funds. We need to have proof of funds. It has to be in your name or your LLC, and it has to be a written document. We don't take snapshots of bank accounts. We would like to have bank statements in the form of a PDF, and we will redact any personal information in terms of accounts, so we'll remove that out for you if you can't. If you're obtaining a mortgage, we'll need to have a pre-qualification from a lender. And you say, well, why would you need to have these things, Tracy? Well, when you put that offer in, the seller needs to know that you actually are qualified and that you actually can purchase the property with whether it's cash or mortgage. So once we have that information, you will send it to me. Everything's electronic. We will send it back to you. If you have any questions, you can go over those questions with me. And so in New Jersey, and I'm in New Jersey when I say this, and I know we are in South Jersey, and North Jersey is a little different. So if you're watching this and you're from North Jersey, I'm going to talk about both. But in New Jersey, there is a 3-day attorney review period. And some people say to me, hey, Tracy, I want to put this offer in, but I want to have an attorney review it first. Well, what I'll say to that is that you can have them review it, but it's not a contract. And so I simply would not urge you or suggest that you pay anybody to review a potential offer. You will have a period, and it's a 3-day period. Once the seller accepts your terms and you both sign off on it and you have a written contract, you will have a 3-day period. We don't count weekends or holidays. So hypothetically, if you had something signed on Friday, you'd have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Both buyer and seller have 3 days in which they can have an attorney review the offer, or I should say the contract, I'm sorry. Now, please note that it's not required. You do not have to have an attorney review your contract. And I know North Jersey is different. So my North Jersey people, if you are taking this to an attorney, please make sure that it's an attorney that's familiar with real estate. Oftentimes, they will take this contract and they will tear it to smithereens. And then they will make so many changes. The seller has already agreed to the terms and the seller just says no, and you simply won't get the offer accepted. So please just make sure it's someone who is familiar with real estate. And in that contract, there are already going to be a lot of common terms, a lot of contingencies. And so you may say, well, I'm not really comfortable with this. Well, first, what I would say is make sure you read it. It's in layman's terms. In these contracts, there are plenty of contingencies. A contingency is when it says, hey, if this happens, then I still have a right to get out of the contract. So if we do a home inspection and I'm not happy, I have the right to get out of the contract. If we do a termite and the termite comes back and the damage is over the amount that we had agreed to, I still can get out of the contract. If you are, if we have a title insurance done, if we have the title policy title completed, and there are liens or judgments and they supersede the amount of the house or the sales price, I can still get out. So there are contract contingencies already in there to safeguard you. You have termite, you have home inspection, you have mortgage. If you're getting a mortgage, it has to appraise unless you stipulated in your offer that it did not. Okay, so there are a lot of things that already have to happen in there. And so I would definitely suggest that you make sure you're comfortable submitting the offer. If you have any questions, make sure you're asking me. Please don't ask friends, don't ask family. They mean well, but they don't have the proper information to guide you. And please do not Google that information. Make sure you're speaking to me and that you are asking, the right questions. I want to guide you. I'm going to lead you in that process. And here's some things that you need to expect. When you submit that offer, we hope that the seller will respond within 24 hours. Oftentimes they do, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they actually are waiting for multiple offers, which brings me to my next thing. Do not assume that you're the only one placing the offer. When you're looking at a property, there may be other people looking at that property. And just because you're there and it just kind of feels like you're the only one looking at it, make no assumptions. Always assume that you may have to be competing with somebody else, which means that you should put your best offer forward. And so when people ask me, what should I submit the offer for? My answer is, what do you feel that the property is worth? Because it's only worth what the buyer is willing to spend and also what the seller is willing to let it go for. When I purchase property or when I go into the store, if I see a pair of shoes or a suit and I like it, I don't have it, I buy it. If you're purchasing with cash, it may make a difference if it's $5,000, $10,000 or $15,000 less in price. But if you're getting a mortgage, it's not going to really change the payment that much. Okay. And so keep that in mind when you're considering placing the offer. When you're considering putting the offer in, don't assume that I'm going to put the offer in low and then hopefully the seller is going to counter back or give me another price, because you may not get a second chance to submit the offer. Oftentimes they may ask for a highest and best, where they say, hey, Tracy, we have multiple offers. We're going to take 2 days, maybe 3, maybe 1. And we're going to review all the offers and we're going to then decide an offer, which, by the way, price does not always trump the offer. Terms are also important. So if you're looking at multiple offer situation, you may want to make sure that we discuss what are the terms. If you're getting a mortgage, it's conventional. 30 days is typically the allotted time. If it's an FHA mortgage, it may be 45 to 60, which is a little longer. If it's cash, you can go in as little as 14 days, provided we definitely have the clear title. But if you are looking to make your offer presentable, try to make sure you make it as clean as possible. We typically don't advise putting offers in subject to you selling a property. It's a little harder to get that accepted. I know it's not the right thing to say, but I'm just going to tell you up front. If you're putting the offer in and you are asking for some unreasonable things in the offer, it may be a problem. If you're looking at appliances, I would say don't get caught and don't get hung up over appliances, because there are some things that you can actually, $2,500, you can get your own appliances. So make sure you are looking at things and you're trying to give the seller the best offer. Okay. If you have any questions, like I said, make sure you ask me and I'll go over them. And I don't think there's much other than, what I've just covered. Let me just try and think a minute. Let's talk about the deposit and the down payment, the difference between the two. Your down payment is the total amount that you're going to need to bring for the lender if you're getting a mortgage. So it's not, if you're paying cash, it doesn't apply. If you're getting a mortgage and the lender says, hey, you're going to put down 5% or 10%. So if you're putting down 10% of $300,000, so if you put down 10% of $300,000 and the lender says, okay, you are now going to be required to have $30,000 on this purchase. Now, that amount is not due up front. We will require a deposit, which is a portion of the down payment. We will say, hey, Mr. Seller, I'm willing to put this up as a good faith deposit. Typically, we don't submit offers without a deposit. It's you saying it to the seller, I'm very interested, I'm motivated, and I'm qualified. And I'm putting up a deposit, and that deposit is not held by the seller. It's typically held either with the title company or an escrow company. So that deposit, again, is the part that you are able to get back if any of the contingencies are not met. So I did an example, $100,000 property, and the lender says you have to put down 5%, maybe $5,000. Part of that deposit, we would probably say $2,500. I think your deposit needs to be really strong. The stronger the deposit, the stronger and the more you're going to be able to show the seller that I really, really want this property. And don't worry about you not getting it back or getting it back, because it is going to be able to come back to you if you don't get this property, if you decide or if you can't get a mortgage, which is why we actually make sure you're qualified, or if you have a contingency and it's not met and the deposit does not go to the seller. If you're paying cash, we still are going to ask you for your deposit. That deposit is not going to be due when you sign the offer. So it's only going to be due once the seller has accepted, once you've signed, fully ratified, once we have gotten past the attorney review. Then we will have the opportunity and we will have to put that deposit in an escrow account. You will also have a home inspection. I typically say 10 to 14 days, and that is 14 or 10 calendar days where you can have a third party come in and take a look at the property. It must be a licensed inspector. It can't be mom and dad and uncle or just a contractor. They need to be licensed and insured. Typically, we like people to be local, okay? So if you need recommendations, we can help you with that. Termite, you want to get a termite. If you're in a condominium, it may not be necessary to have one, but surely if you're a single family home, you want to get your termite and you want to make sure the termite is completed. And that's to ensure that there are no wood destroying insects on the property. And that if there are, because sometimes there are, it's the ground and it's dirt, you would have to have you would request, and that's something we negotiate up front. It's already going to be in the contract that the seller will take care of any treatment. Okay, and most properties that are in the city are public water and public sewer. However, if you are in the rural area, you may have a well or you may have septic. We will have to get those inspections. The seller is required to provide a well certification that the water is drinkable. They're not required necessarily to do a septic certification. That will be on you. Same with the home inspection. You will have to make sure you set aside funds to do it. I don't suggest you not do it unless you are really, really experienced, and maybe you are an investor and you've flipped properties before and you're comfortable doing that. Home inspections are for you to gain information about the property. We're looking at plumbing, heating, electrical, and any structural things with the property. I think for the most part, I think that's it. I think that's all that we need to consider. And again, if you have any questions, let me know. I'd be happy to help you. And God bless you. Good luck. And we hope that your offer is going to be accepted. But let me advise you, put your big boy pants on. Do not get emotionally attached to these properties until you get past the attorney review. Oftentimes buyers are excited and it's an emotional attachment. And then when the offer doesn't get accepted, it's a letdown and it really hurts. And so don't get attached to these properties. You look at the property, make sure you make the decision with your head, not with your heart. And know that if that's not the property for you, then God has something else for you. And if the door gets closed on that one, then you just have to open up another door. And if it has to be another door, and it has to be another door, it's a process. But if it were easy, everybody would be doing it. And everybody's not. So good luck with everything. God bless you. Stay safe.